Hello, and welcome to my Module 5 final presentation for Summer Session B. Today I'm going to be talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, specifically in international context and how it affected other parts of the world. So in this presentation, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about King Leopold II of Belgium. King Leopold II of Belgium has a history that is expansive and disgusting. Most of his life efforts, however, and for what he's most well known for, I think, is his relationship with and the destruction of the people of Congo. The CNN article by Richard Allen Green sums up King Leopold's brutality very nicely and gives it context to non Europeans of who King Leopold was and why the destruction of his monuments are so significant. While many of the monuments dedicated to him are being reclaimed by the government and repurposed in their decolonization efforts, I'll be specifically touching on the bust of King Leopold II that is in Ghent, or that was in Ghent. This is a picture of that bust before the Black Lives Matter movement specifically, which I'm going to touch on in the next slide. So this is a picture of that same exact bust on June 2nd of 2020. Actually, I believe this picture was from the 3rd of 2020, but the event took place on the 2nd. So as many of you know, of George Floyd's murder on May 25th of 2020 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and how it sparked the uproar of the Black Lives Matter protests around our country in the United States, as very well documented in Nadia Sage's article. I think that's in The Guardian. They touch on a few different monuments that were disrupted the days following George Floyd's murder and at the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement. There are many other countries, however, that were impacted by this movement and took a stand against their own atrocities as a countries. One of these being, of course, Belgium. I thought that was very cool to learn about, that it impacted so many people outside of our own country. I just think that was very beautiful, devastating, of course, but what a wonderful representation of how movements can cross overseas and boundaries. So an example of this and the connection that was made towards the previous mentioned bust of King Leopold II. You can see in this image the red paint along with the cloth over the face of the bust reading, "I can't breathe," which were, of course, Floyd's infamous final words before being murdered by a police officer. This, I think, is a great example of how protests can be turned into brief art that symbolizes not only the need for change, but the need for it to be seen as well, to make almost a show out of it, for it to be recognized as an issue. I remember seeing this and being overcome with grief for the people this display and protest represents, even overseas. So shortly after this protest on June 30th of 2020, which is actually the anniversary of Congo gaining independence from Belgium, um, the likenesses were ordered to be removed. And the current King Philippe expressed condolences towards the Congolese people for the tragic history caused by Belgium. And I found that the way the king handled this concern so gracefully and empathetically, and in a way that was informed and sensitive as well, was very beautiful. The bust and other monuments have been removed and moved into a museum warehouse where they await their fate at the hands of those who are working on decolonization projects within Belgium. While there is a place, I think, for these displays of protests, this is an example that they touch briefly on in the Britannica pros and cons list, where history can be so traumatizing, to honor that it is of healing nature to remove the peace out of respect for the people who have been impacted the greatest. I think this was a strong move on the part of the Belgium government out of respect for their people as they look forward to growing as a country. Here are my references, and thank you so much.